The Gender Solutions PFJ system provides implants to address the anatomical differences among men and women with a reproducible instrumentation platform that is designed to simplify patellofemoral arthroplasty. Instrumentation for the patellofemoral joint system is contained in 2 instrument trays. The first tray contains the femoral milling guides, the femoral pegtail drill guides, and the femoral provisionals for both right and left knees, along with the pegtail drill. The second tray contains all the other instruments that are specific to the patellofemoral joint system. It includes the MIS screw inserter, the 6mm IM drill, the IM anterior cut guide, the telescoping boom, the slap hammer extractor, the tibial resection guide, the high flex insertion extractor handle, and the universal femoral impactor handle. A handpiece kit contains the milling handpiece, air hose, drill milling adapter, standard mill burr, and 33mm MIS headed screws. Select the appropriate patellar system and use the preferred instrumentation to prepare the patella. Select the appropriate size, which provides for the best support of the patella on the condyles after it transitions off of the trochlear component. Expose the joint using the same arthrotomy that is preferred for MIS procedures. Avoid cutting the anterior horns of the menisci or intermeniscal ligament. Mark white sides line from the lowest part of the trochlea to the highest part of the intercondylar notch. Then make another line perpendicular to this AP axis. Use the 6mm IM drill to drill a hole 10 mm anterior to the origin of the posterior cruciate ligament. Unlock the telescoping boom by loosening the knurled locking knob. While pushing down and holding the adjustment knob on the IM anterior cut guide, slide the telescoping boom onto the collar of the guide from either side. Then release the adjustment knob. Tighten the knurled locking knob to lock the telescoping boom. Attach the inserter extractor handle onto the IM guide. And insert the IM guide into the medullary canal until the proximal aspect of the guide contacts the distal femoral sulcus. To facilitate the boom clearing the anterior femur, adjust the IM guide to the open position by turning the adjustment knob counterclockwise. If impaction is required, use the inserter extractor handle or impact directly on the IM anterior cut guide only at the location marked Impact Area. Do not over-impact the guide. Rotate the IM guide to the desired external rotation. To align to the AP axis, rotate the IM guide until the vertical reference lines on the guide are parallel to Whiteside's line drawn earlier. Position the tip of the telescoping boom over the lateral facet of the anterior cortex. Then adjust the cut guide by turning the adjustment knob on the IM guide until the boom tip just contacts the anterior femoral cortex. Avoid excessive pressure on the boom tip. The goal is to create a flush cut with the anterior cortex. Use the resection guide through the cutting slot to confirm the anterior cut. Secure the cut guide to the femur with 3 33mm MIS quad-sparing headed screws. At least one of the screws must be inserted in an anterior screw hole. Tighten the screws sequentially, but do not over-tighten the screws. Then use the resection guide to recheck the planned resection level. Remove the telescoping boom by loosening the knurled locking knob on the boom, and slide the boom off the IM anterior cut guide. Use an oscillating saw with a 0.75-inch blade to make the anterior cut. Remove the screws from the guide. Attach the inserter extractor handle, and use the slap hammer to remove the IM anterior cut guide from the femur. The milling guides are designed to match the outside geometry of the implant and therefore serve as sizing guides. Select the appropriate size milling guide in the appropriate left or right configuration. Depress and hold the spring-loaded button while pulling up or down on each foot until each foot is in the middle or set position. Tug slightly on the foot without the button depressed to ensure that the foot is locked. When the foot is in the set position, the gold band will not be visible. Place the guide on the femur, ensuring that the anterior flange and both feet of the guide contact the femur simultaneously. Ensure that the flange is not raised proximally or distally, and that neither foot is raised above the bone. The goal is to position the trochlear implant flush to 1 mm recessed relative to the condylar cartilage. This will be achieved when both feet are just touching the condylar cartilage. Select the trochlear component size by evaluating the mediolateral coverage and by ensuring that the anterior flange covers the anterior cut without overhang. A small amount of underhang or clearance is acceptable. The engraved line on the milling guide and the central milling track represents the location of the patellofemoral track on the implant and may be used as a reference. Mediolateral implant widths are in 4 to 5 mm increments. Note that the anterior flange increases in length with increasing implant size, so be sure that the proximal coverage is acceptable. Insert the resection guide into the tail verification slot of the milling guide to ensure that the implant will not overhang into the intercondylar notch. The resection guide shows the implant's most distal articulating surface. Insert 3 33 mm MIS quad-sparing headed screws in the anterior flange of the guide. Tighten the screws sequentially, beginning with the central oblique screw, then the lateral screw, and then the medial screw. Do not over-tighten the screws. To open the collet on the milling handpiece, unlock the burr locking mechanism by rotating the locking collar into the open position. When fully unlocked, the red dot on the collet will be aligned with the blank dot on the handpiece. Insert the burr into the collet until it is flush with the collet. Rotate the locking collar into the lock position. A click can be felt when fully secure, and the red dot on the collet will be aligned with the red dot on the handpiece. Tug slightly on the burr to ensure that it is fully locked. Before powering on the handpiece, place the slotted end of the mill into the track on the milling guide. Do not operate the handpiece unless it is properly engaged in the milling guide. Start the mill and run it at full speed. Hold the mill on the lower half, similar to holding a pencil. While keeping the milling handpiece perpendicular to the milling guide, move the mill distally through the central track. Irrigation is not necessary with this device, but may be used if desired. To mill the lateral tracks, depress and hold the spring-loaded button on the lateral foot. Pull up on the foot until the stop is reached. Then release the button. The gold band should be visible above the guide. This will allow the milling handpiece to pass under the raised foot. Then mill all lateral tracks. If the milling handpiece appears to stick in the area near the feet, ensure that the foot is fully raised. Disengage the throttle lever before exiting the track. Depress the button on the lateral foot and push the foot into its down or stabilize position. The gold band will be visible below the guide, and the lateral foot will now be resting on the milled surface, ensuring stability of the guide when milling the opposite track. Next, depress and hold the spring-loaded button on the medial foot. Pull up on the foot until the stop is reached. Then release the button. The gold band should be visible above the guide. Then mill all medial tracks. Disengage the throttle lever and remove the mill. Return the throttle safety slide to the safe or full forward position. Remove the screws and the milling guide. Then irrigate to remove all bone and cartilage debris. A small area of bone may remain distally, but will be removed during the tail preparation. Select the appropriate size pegtail guide in the appropriate left or right configuration. The pegtail guides match the outside geometry and inlaid thickness of the trochlear implant. Insert the guide over the bone, ensuring that it is fully seated against the anterior and distal surfaces. Apply pressure distally on the guide until the guide is against the prepared distal ledges. Secure it with 3 33 mm screws and tighten them sequentially. Do not over-tighten the screws. Drill the anterior, medial, and lateral peg holes. Drill the full depth until the shoulder of the drill stops against the boss of each peg hole. Insert the drill into the entry hole on the left side of the tail slot. Begin drilling the oval peg hole. When the upper shoulder of the drill reaches the boss on the guide, continue drilling while sliding the drill from left to right. The drill's upper shoulder must remain flush with the guide's boss. Attach the inserter-extractor handle to the appropriate size PFJ provisional in the appropriate left or right configuration. Insert the provisional onto the femur, being careful to properly align the pegs and tail with the holes. The pegs should engage into the holes at the same time. The provisional can be inserted onto the femur by hand if preferred. Remove the inserter-extractor handle and impact the provisional with the PFJ impactor until fully seated. Be sure to deliver the impactor force in line with the axis of the pegs. Some press fit may be necessary to ensure an optimal fit, but be careful to avoid impinging or damaging cartilage at the transition area during impaction. Attach the inserter-extractor handle to the PFJ provisional. Then attach the slap hammer to the end of the handle. Carefully remove the provisional in line with the axis of the pegs. Do not rock the provisional back and forth during removal, as this could compromise the bone preparation, peg hole preparation, surrounding cartilage, and the implant's fit.